Hi, Bill Jones from Turntastic Wood Designs. I made this desk for my office and I'm very pleased with it. I made it from a plan I found online, and a plan with complete instructions will be listed in a link below. It's made from basically 2x4s and a couple 2x2s on the bottom, and for the top I used ash and I stained it. It worked out really well, and it's simple construction. There are no drawers and there are no doors, so that makes it actually pretty easy. It did take a while to do all the finishes though, and I'll go over that. If you'd like to see how I did it, stick around and I'll show you next. I started by cutting 6 legs to the same length and 5 stretchers to the same length for the leg assemblies. Furniture legs should have a chamfer on the bottom. That will prevent them from splitting out or chipping if a piece is dragged across the floor. Because this is pine, it's easy enough for me to do that just by sanding them with a random orbit sander. The whole desk is put together using pocket screws. So I drilled the pocket holes in the stretchers between the leg assemblies. Then I put the assemblies in clamps to hold them in place while I screwed it together. The center leg assembly has no stretcher on the bottom. I carefully marked the cut points for the pieces that will make the X. I cut those and put those in place using pocket screws as seen before. To fill up all those pocket holes, I use a piece of 3/8 inch dowel that I've cut to about 2 inches long. I put a little glue in the pocket hole, tap it in with a hammer, then I cut it flush with a flush trim saw, then go over it real quickly with a random orbit sander, and once you paint it, you'll never see the pocket hole. The left leg assembly and the center leg assembly are attached by a stretcher on the top and the bottom and the back, and on the top only in the front. Cross braces are added to the back between the top and bottom rails to prevent the desk from racking. Two by twos are added at the appropriate place on the center leg assembly. Those will hold up the left side of the shelves. The right leg assembly is then attached to the center leg assembly with stretchers front and back. And in the same way, stretchers are placed for the center and the bottom shelves. I cut pieces of MDF for the shelves and fit them tightly in place. If you're using pine, you can't just paint it with regular paint. Pine has knots, and with regular paint, sooner or later those knots will bleed through and look terrible. There's a special primer you can get that is shellac based. If you use a shellac based primer and put on at least 3 coats, that will seal those knots so that they won't bleed through after you paint them. I put on 3 coats of primer, letting it dry overnight in between each coat, and then lightly sanding it with 300 grit sandpaper. Then I put on 2 coats of paint and 5 coats of polyacrylic. For the top, I'm using ash, mostly because I have a lot of it, and I have to clean it up. I start at the joiner and get one face flat. Then I go to the planer and get the opposite face parallel, and finally clean up the edge on the table saw. Then I take my dressed boards and glue them up into one big blank for the top. After an initial rough sanding, I cut the piece to its final dimension using my circular saw. Then I do the finish sanding up to 220 grit. And I don't know what's more fun, actually doing the sanding or watching somebody sand on YouTube. I wanted the top to have more of a contrast than the light colored ash, so I used a walnut gel stain. Gel stain is great to use. It's about the consistency of pudding, but it doesn't taste like pudding at all. It tastes more like brake fluid. But anyway, you slop it on like a slob, and then you can just wipe it off and it blends very, very well. Well, when I was all done with that, I then put several coats of poly on the top and then mounted the top here on the base, and that was done with pocket screws like everything else. It came out really nice. I'm very happy with it. Again, if you'd like to make one of your own, there's a plan listed in the link below. If you liked this video and found it useful, please like and share with your friends. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the area below. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It really helps me out. And hit that bell if you want to get notified every time I make a new video. And as always, thanks for watching.